Let's talk about some of the craziest recruitments of the year. And I got the guy behind almost all the shocking breaking news in recruiting, and he does it all with just a single graphic. That's right. On3's Hayes Fawcett is joining me right here. We're going to go behind the scenes. Some of the biggest quarterback recruitments. We're going to namely talk Julian Lewis, Bryce Underwood, and what could be coming next. So you guys do me a favor, smash that subscribe button. We are doing it here at the On3 Recruits channel, and signing day is just around the corner. So jump on board, hit subscribe. All right, let's bring in the great Hayes Fawcett. Hayes, sitting at your computer, you never know what's going to happen. I like that you're always on call. But let's rewind it like 2 weeks ago when it started with the news that Julian Lewis was going to decommit and Houston Longstreet ended up flipping. But what was that weekend like on your end? How much of a heads up did you get on the Julian Lewis decommit and then the progressively incoming Houston Longstreet flip?
That was definitely a crazy weekend for quarterback movement. In terms of the time notice, first off, we got to take it back to the Houston Longstreet one. The night before he announced, it was about midnight my time, which would have been, 10 o'clock Pacific. He had reached out to me and told me that he had just told the USC coaches that he was going to flip and, wanted me to get everything ready. So, I did just that. Anyway, the next day I was headed to Houston and was actually at this museum, and I get a text from Julian Lewis, "Hey, I'm going to decommit." I was like, "Okay, cool. When do you want to put it out?" He was like, "Right now." So at that same exact time, I was finishing up the Houston graphic and had to stop everything what I'm doing and then put out the Julian Lewis one. And then
Right.
As soon as that happened, chaos ensued. And then about a minute later, it's time to put out the Houston Longstreet news. And yeah, I had to do that all while walking around the museum. It was pretty crazy day, to say the least.
Were those announcements kind of tied? You said Houston Longstreet hit you up Saturday night, said, "Hey, I'm flipping to USC, get that commitment graphic ready." Do you think at that point the USC staff contacted Julian Lewis to let him know that, hey, we're going to take Houston Long? Is that kind of how you think that happened?
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't say the timing of the Julian Lewis decommitment was by, coincidence. I don't know how far in advance they told him that, they were going to take Houston, but I guess as soon as he got wind of that, he wanted to make it public that he was going to be decommitting from USC.
So do you have a shell graphic started, ready to go because you might know that these pieces, or do you just, when you get the word, do you just start from scratch?
Yeah, whenever it depends, especially for quarterbacks, I try to make a really nice, good original piece.
Mm-hmm.
So I usually start from scratch on those. But yeah, with one a Houston Longstreet where it's a 5-star flip, I really try to put, a ton of detail into it. And obviously with the new visit picture rule, if you don't take an official visit to that school, you're not going to have a picture in uniform. So had to do a jersey swap and whatnot, and that, adds even more time to the process. So.
All right. And then let's fast forward it was 4 or 5 days to Bryce Underwood. So that day was special because one, Julian Lewis announced his commitment to Colorado, which we all knew it was going to go down with Colorado. So that wasn't the question. The question was how and when was he going to do it? We got word kind of that morning that, hey, on the Pat McAfee show in about 5 hours, Julian Lewis is going to announce his decision. Now, we all knew it was Colorado, but what we did not know what was coming 6 hours later. So Julian Lewis announces around noon, and around 6:30 p.m. Eastern time, Bryce Underwood flips. Now, when did you start getting word that this Bryce Underwood flip was going down the same day?
It's actually crazy, Josh. I woke up, and obviously when you wake up, first is your text. And I woke up and I, looked over at my phone and I saw a text from Bryce Underwood. It said, "Yo, you know exactly why I'm texting you." He sent a few Michigan pictures, and I was, just now waking up. I thought, man, am I in the daze right now? Is this really going to happen? And started texting back and forth and told me, "Hey, I'm going to do it today. Need this done as soon as possible." So I got it ready, and yeah, a couple hours later, announced this flip to Michigan, and here we are today.
Wow. So when Julian Lewis announced, were the gears in motion yet, or did this come after Julian Lewis announced?
Yeah, this was was I was working on it while I was waiting on the Julian Lewis announcement to go public. So
So you
yeah, it was
knew
definitely
that
yeah.
day that it was going to be like the biggest breaking news day of the cycle. You knew really before Julian Lewis even made his announcement on national television that Bryce was coming right behind him.
Yeah, it was definitely a crazy day to say the least.
Man. So now we sit here. We've got about 3 days until National Signing Day, Sunday in a couple hours. It's going to go dead. The dead period begins, and that's when all the fun starts behind the scenes. So what's the next 72 hours look like for you? Like, how many graphics are made ready to go for some of these big surprises, and how many will just be on the fly?
So right now I have a couple of them done, but the thing is, like I tell a lot of people, these recruits are gonna, announce their commitment or eventually flip with what do we have? 4 or 5 days left until signing day. A lot of these guys don't make their decision until really the last minute. So that puts a lot of stress on me, really for the last like 2 or 3 years. I mean, I'm staying up all night the night before working on graphics, getting everything ready for the next day. So all the ones that I know of right now, I have them set and ready, and like I'm putting a big emphasis on getting all my stuff done ahead of time. So
Mm-hmm.
whenever that chaos does ensue at the last minute, I can put everything down and get ahead on what I need to get ahead on, and hopefully finish everything I need to finish.
Yeah. But with the way that recruiting goes, I mean, it's just you can never get ahead because, like you said, you've explained to me sometimes these guys go into a decision thinking one way, and then 4 hours later, they're about to sit down to literally sign their papers, and it's another team. So that reminds me of kind of the Jeremiah Smith. Jeremiah Smith ends up signing with Ohio State. Miami, Florida State, Florida to some degree was in it at the end, but namely Miami and Ohio State. How did the Jeremiah Smith recruitment end last year on National Signing Day?
Man, Josh, that's one of those recruitments where you look back down the road and shoot. Even now with him producing as well as he is as a true freshman at Ohio State, it's one of those recruitments you always remember. And like we just spoke about, Josh, a lot of the crazy stuff happens 24, 48 hours before signing day. And following that one last year, that was definitely a wild one. Me and him have been in contact, you know, 48 hours before signing day, and I remember the night before, I was up, like I said, all night, and I get a text at like 2 a.m. maybe. Just remember it being really late, and he told me, he was like, "Hey, Hayes, might need you to make a graphic." So obviously, I stopped everything that I was doing and gave him a call, and we talked about it. And um, as many people know, Miami definitely pushed hard for him toward the end, and it was really up in the air. Like I had a Miami graphic made and everything, and he ultimately ended up sticking with Ohio State. He announced that morning that he was going to sign, and then I'm not sure if you remember this, but he didn't sign until later in the evening. I'm
For
sure,
sure.
schools like Miami and Florida State and other schools like that were continuing to push for him until he eventually signed his papers. But yeah, Josh, that's another recruitment where it was just back and forth down to the wire, and behind the scenes it was definitely crazy.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, over the next 3 days, how crazy is it going to get?
Man, it really depends. Like, if I had to say, definitely over a 6 or 7. Now, there's a lot of big time names out there that have like flip potential that might not happen. But like I said earlier, there's already been a few guys that um, haven't said anything or haven't announced anything that have already, told me of their intentions to flip, and I have those ready. So, yeah, Josh, a couple days away. It's going to be a fun couple days headed into signing day, and looking forward to it.
I cannot wait. All right, make sure you got all your ink cartridges, whatever you need for your Photoshop. Make sure you're stocked up because it's going to get crazy. Hayes Fawcett, thank you for joining us. And you guys, talk to Hayes and I. Who do you think? Call your shot right now in the comment section below. Who will be the biggest flip between now and National Signing Day? Let us know. Comment section below.